Okay, we're just gathering here. I'll just look at the clock and we got a couple more minutes yet, but I see we have our first viewer, so that's good. We'll get started here at 7 o'clock or thereabouts. Okay, 6:59. We're starting to gather. That's good. How is for monitors? Tell me how the sound is going, if you would. Drop me a note or something. Just audio sound check. Okay, sounds good. Thanks. Okay, it's exactly 7 o'clock. I'll give a couple more minutes and I'll just start in, and we'll go with what we prepared, knowing that it's recorded and our folks can go back and watch the recording at their convenience. Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome. This is State of the Party for May, and thanks for joining us. This is recorded, so the folks who are not watching live will be able to watch the tape later. We leave it up on the YouTube channel. So I'm here. Hey, I welcome everyone. I'm Scott Kramer. I'm the chairman of the Kendall County Republican Party. Again, thanks for joining us. We have a tradition in Kendall County. We called it State of the Party about 2 years ago. Then the pandemic came in, and so we had to retreat. But we picked it up again here online, started our YouTube channel. So it's a great place for us to get together. I know we get lots of questions when we're out and about in town and at the various meetings and so forth. This is another way for us to communicate with all of our Republican voters. So hey, and how about my cap? I got this cap at the county chair's training session a couple of weeks ago down in San Antonio. Isn't it nice? Bring America back. So we are ordering some of these, and 2022 is our next election. We're aiming to take back the House in 2022 and get a majority in the Senate again. And you can look at the news every day and see how much we need to rope in this craziness that's going on in Washington, D.C. So, hey, would you believe it? I was standing on Main Street in Boerne just yesterday, and a lady was inside the restaurant. She came outside to tell me how much she liked this hat. So it's got to be popular. Good stuff here in Boerne, Texas. People can relate to what we want to do. So we're thinking ahead to this. I expect we'll do one more State of the Party online in June, so next month, and we're aiming to start State of the Party in person in July. So watch for the announcements on that. And won't that be a wonderful thing when we're back in person again, and we can enjoy each other's company at that time comes. I know there's a lot of jokes about masks. I'll just keep them to myself to keep this thing rolling. So some things I'd like to talk about here today. One, I get questions about our newspaper column. Rich Sena and I, we both write alternating every other week in the Bernie Star newspaper. And then the Democrats have the alternating editions of it as well. So you might have noticed, and again maybe not, but there are editorial standards, and we are really restricted in how much we can attack the opposition in that newspaper column. So we hold back a little bit. You might have seen my column that was published 2 weeks ago, and the title of it was "Blowout Spending." Also, just be aware too that the editors can change the title on our columns as well. So, and we know the rules. We choose to live with the rules. It's no problem to get our ideas out. So, I thought I'd just summarize for you some of the points that were made in the column that I wrote, and I'll give you the less politically correct version of the ideas. So the column was about this ridiculous $2 trillion spending bill that the Democrats pushed through. Thankfully, there was not a single Republican vote in either chamber. That bill ran 628 pages. Due to a Senate rule, our own Senator Ron Johnson from Wisconsin, he insisted that the Senate read the bill aloud. And that took Senate clerks 11 hours to read the entire text of that bill. It was packed with pork barrel spending. It was passed, again, one with just Democrat votes only. And then President Bozo signed, did I say President Bozo? I meant President Biden then signed it into law. And I pointed out in my column some of the amendments that were offered when as the bill went through the Senate and were offered up for a vote, and were voted down by the Democrats. And some of them, to me, were just common sense. One amendment reduced the package to only addressing COVID-related problems. It was voted down. One amendment offered to give money only to school districts that had reopened. Seems common sense. It was voted down by the Democrats. Also, an amendment was to simply give the money to the states in proportion to their population. That is what President Trump led the Congress to do last year. That passed the Senate by a 96-0 vote under President Trump. We offered the same exact thing in the Senate this time, and it was voted down by the Democrats. So I want to be clear on what they're standing for and what we are not. I think one of the more egregious examples of bad policy in that bill is that there is a clause that allows for minority farmers to be able to write off their government loans because they are, quote unquote, socially disadvantaged. And this is, to me, an obvious, clear case of racial discrimination. Our Republicans offered an amendment to remove that from the bill, and it was voted down. So that's what was going on. And meanwhile, our border is in crisis. Washington is clueless. The vice president has supposedly been given responsibility for that, but in 7 weeks, we haven't heard anything from her. In fact, they won't even call it a crisis. And it flows right through Kendall County. So you can, our law enforcement people and our criminal prosecutor are really having a struggle with this because the pathway for illegal human trafficking runs right down Highway 10 through Kendall County. So a real problem for us. I started this column saying, what Washington should do. And one of the things Washington should do is get the hell out of our lives. And so I suggest in this column that let's get back to basics. The feds need to start by securing the border, and then maybe they could work on also delivering the mail on time. So Anyway, that's my less politic version of the column that was in the Bernie Star. So check that out. And Rich Senna just had one in last week, or tomorrow rather. Sorry, it'll be published tomorrow. So look for that. And it's a way for us to get our good conservative messages out. Okay, I want to also remind y'all, whoever's watching, feel free. There's a comment section, and I can see the comments now. And so feel free to, if you have a question for me while we're online, go ahead and enter that in, and we'll take them up as we see them. Okay. Let's see. Something else coming on then. Coming up on the calendar is our. We have two clubs, Republican clubs in Kendall County. One is the Kendall County Republican Women, and the other is the Kendall County Republican Club. The club, the KCRC for short, has a meeting 1 week from tonight. That is on May 20th. And it will be a special emphasis. It's over at the Betty Hotel here in Bernie, emphasis on youth. So it's subsidizing and inviting youth, anyone under age 22. So it's going to be a great time to celebrate and engage with the future of our great nation, and it is in the hands of our most precious resource, our sons and daughters. So please join us on May 20th. That's 1 week from tonight. Okay, I'm going to glance up here and see if there's any questions we're going to field now, but seeing none, let's move on. I want to comment a little bit on the legislature. You know, the legislature's in session up in Austin, and the wags all say, you know, none of us are safe as long as the legislature is meeting in session. But I guess I'm not quite that cynical. For the Republican Party, the party spent part of last year. You know, there's a lot of work that went into in a platform committee to develop what our party, our Texas Republican Party objectives are and priorities are in the coming session. So we've communicated those, and our chairman, Alan West, has done a great job of communicating those to our legislators. And now the tough work begins even though we're in a majority in both houses and we have the governor's office, there are some opposition in the chambers. And so we've got to do a lot of work on it. So a couple of things I want to touch on, and things are changing by the day, so I won't attempt to give you the very latest. You can Google any one of these items and get the very latest up-to-date information. I want to touch on first on constitutional carry. And we have a bill in the Senate and in the House on that. We as a party, we like both of those bills. We have a preference for the House bill, HB 1927. So there's one you can Google if you want to read the details of it. Our Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick, has come out in support of both of these. And there's some markup activity going on right now. So, you know, here's some of that. So here's kind of how we see it. You know, we have a Second Amendment right. We have to keep reminding ourselves we have a Second Amendment right. The Democrats in Washington seem to differ with us on the constitutionality of our right to keep and bear arms, which is very clear in the Constitution to the rest of us. So Texans today are legally allowed to walk down the street with a long gun, but not to carry a pistol. So that needs to be fixed. We will say that 20 other states already have what we call constitutional carry as the law in their states. So you can imagine, it seems kind of weird that other states 20 other states would have better Second Amendment protections than we do. And also want to point out that the laws as written, as proposed, that are working through the legislature now, they will not affect the background check process, where any citizen who wants to purchase a firearm needs to go through that process. So again, we're working our way through. The party is pushing hard for this activity, these bills to get through and get signed into law, and ask for all you Republicans out there to remind your representative and your state senator to the importance of these items. So the second thing I want to bring up and just talk a little bit about here is election integrity. And I will say this is the most demonized topic. I've mentioned it before on here. All we ask for in the GOP, what we are focused on is we want to make it easy to vote, hard to cheat. That's what we're focused on. So we can keep it simple. You could put that on a bumper sticker. Easy to vote, hard to cheat, because every individual's vote is precious and important. Those of us in Kendall County can recall not too distant past where we have had county elections settled by a single vote. So with that in mind, it's important that these processes be very robust, hard to cheat. So here in Texas, what's going on is election integrity. House Bill 6 is one to look at. So you can Google that, see what the latest of it is. What goes into House Bill 6 is it clarifies the election law, and it will not allow local officials to change election law by their own fiat. So a county wouldn't be able to change the rules of the game partway through. And we all know what happened last year, and we weren't the only state either. So that this bill will clarify that. And what we hear from the other side is this disenfranchise, these trigger words, and voter suppression. And that's not what this is about. In fact, I think it's ludicrous when I hear these claims of voter suppression close on the heels of the highest voter turnout in more than a century in America, including all of our minority Americans. So it's a ridiculous straw man argument. What is in this bill is the bill wants to make ballot harvesting illegal, to make sure ballot harvesting does not occur and every legal vote is counted. What do I mean by ballot harvesting? It is legal in some states for an individual to gather up ballots, completed ballots, and turn them in to the authorities, you can imagine the abuse there and what happens where the ballot harvester glances at a ballot, sees that ballot went for the Republican, and in the trash can it goes. So that's the kind of thing we're talking about. So, what I hear from our voters is a lack of faith in the system. So we as a democracy have to bolster the faith that our citizens have that the election system is free and fair, that it's convenient and easy to vote, but it's hard to cheat. And this bill provides that, and it provides more oversight to the mail-in ballots and drive-through election sites. So I'll point out that a more secure vote, and for things like photo ID, it polls equally well for independents and Republicans, and a majority of Democrats are in favor of photo ID, for example. And in our election year last year in 2020, historic number of Black voters and Latino voters voted for Republican. We had counties in the Rio Grande Valley that swung by 30 to 40% in last year in 2020. So there was certainly no voter suppression there. Americans of all stripes want to have a secure election, and to insinuate that any of our citizens are not capable of requesting a ballot or providing proper photo ID, that is a racist belief. And that's why this bill goes through. Now, I want to comment too, you know, we're very proud here in Kendall County. We have a good, strong election office and election processes, and they serve us very well. We should all be proud of what goes on, but even about our processes here. But even so, some things can happen where in this very recent election that we just completed 2 weeks ago, for example, we had a voter who entered a election place and did not have the proper photo ID. This particular voter had a photo ID, but in Texas, there is a list. There's about 6 different kinds. These are the types of photo ID you have to produce, and IDs from other states are not on that list. In this case, one election worker erroneously had printed out a standard ballot to send that voter on her way. Fortunately, one of our Republican workers was there to intercede and change that. So we got that stopped, and that vote did not go in. In fact, a voter chose not to go through the proper channels to cast a vote. There still are ways that a voter can exercise their right to vote if they don't have a photo ID. There's a process for that as well. So, but it's not a standard ballot. So anyway, so when I say that, we've got a good system here, but just realize that even in Kendall County, there are still issues with that we have to watch. With that in mind, anyone who's watching this video, we can use more help with regard to election workers and poll watchers. The party, your Kendall County Republican Party, makes the appointments for the workers. When you go to cast a vote and you're greeted at the door, and you're shown your way to the ballot, the electoral machines, those are workers that are appointed by the political parties. One half of them are appointed by the Republican Party, one half are appointed by the Democrats. Since this Kendall County was a Republican vote for governor in the last gubernatorial election, the Republican Party appoints the presiding judge at each of the election locations. So I'm getting into a little bit of detail here, but I just want you to know that the people that you see, they are appointed by the parties. And we as a Republican Party are always looking for people who are willing to serve. This is one of the places where you actually get paid. You don't get paid much, barely minimum wage, but you do get paid, which is more than I get doing my job as the chairman. So please, if you're interested in that, and for poll workers and poll watchers, we have had poll watchers as well, and they're valuable. And that case that I just gave was a case where a poll watcher saw a mistake, and we were able to intercede before that ballot was cast. So a lot of discussion here, and I hope you bore with me here as I was going through a lot of detail, but election integrity, this is an issue for the Republicans. It is a top priority for the state of Texas Republican Party, and our legislature is getting it done. So we need to encourage them to get this across the finish line and get it signed into law. Again, to protect the integrity of the ballot, to see that it's easy to vote, hard to cheat. That's what we're up against here. And just to mention, and then I'll glance here and see if we got any other questions to answer. I want to point out too that we are, so election workers I mentioned, but there are many other volunteer opportunities here in the party. So please drop us a note. Where you can find us is you can just send an email, Kendall, GOPTX@gmail.com. So it's Kendall with 2 L's, Kendall, GOPTX, all small caps, @gmail.com. You can send us a note there, and we will connect you with one of our team captains and make that happen. So let's see what else we got. Let me just glance up here at the dashboard. Okay, looks like we're good on that. Hey, I want to point out too. So let me give a little commentary on some news, some more news from Washington. And that is, for those of you who follow Washington politics closely, you will know that yesterday, Wednesday morning, there was a vote taken in the House of Representatives to for the leader of the conference. So each party has, they call it the conference. So all of our Republican lawmakers gather routinely and they strategize on getting the work done of the people done in Congress. That's called a conference. There is a conference chair that is elected to lead the conference. And up until yesterday morning, that leader was Congressman Liz Cheney. She has a famous last name. Her father was the Vice President of the United States, Dick Cheney. She is from Wyoming. They have one congressman from Wyoming. It's a fairly sparsely populated state, very conservative. And she has served for several years in that, but there was general unhappiness in our caucus, in our conference, the Republican conference, on her leadership. And where she got in the news, and I will say this, I think it was a false narrative by the media, is that that Liz Cheney was kicked out because of her battles with former President Trump. And I think that was I'm just going to say that's a false narrative. The media loves these kind of soap opera dramas, and so they were pushing that. My view of it, and the view in the caucus, it was actually a voice vote. They didn't even cast ballots on it. It was such a strong sentiment that we needed to make a change in our leadership. And it had more to do with the lack of sticking to the conservative principles that we feel our people sent us there to fight for. What I hear from my voters is the Republican Party doesn't fight hard enough. So this is part of the deal. We're reacting to that, and some new leadership will be in place. With regard to that, this isn't a repudiation of President Trump in any way. The feeling in our caucus now is in Congress is that we need to stand up and fight for the forgotten people, not the lobbyists that get 628-page bills through Congress for umpteen trillion dollars. The people are who we answer to. So the attacks that are on America right now with wide open borders, the human trafficking run by cartels, the cartels are making more money off human trafficking than they are on drugs now. It's outrageous. And here it is right through Kendall County too. It's terrible. We also see in the cities dangerous streets because of underfunded police departments, and then attacks on our rights to defend ourselves with arms. Then schools, even if they are open, only about half of American children are in person in schools today. We're blessed here in Boerne. We have Boerne ISD's schools have been in session since last August. Went a whole school year, and we got through it. It can be done, and they sure showed us the way on it. But yet, half the American kids aren't in school, and yet many of those school districts are teaching their children that America is evil, that there is no God, that there are racist theories and questions of truth about two sexes, man and woman, and this kind of anti-cultural material can't hack it. As Democrats push these massive unemployment, quote unquote, checks, they're pushing an agenda for a universal living wage. Every businessman I know is having trouble hiring employees. One businessman in Boerne told me, he said, it is impossible for him to staff his business today because the pay is much greater to stay home than it is to go to work. It's ridiculous. This is, again, what we're up against here. Republicans have to fight this. And then shutting down businesses and schools and communities in the name of COVID doesn't serve us well. It's harmed mental health. It has slowed down learning for a generation of children. And it's empowering bureaucrats over our individual freedoms. So these are the types of things that are happening in Washington. You all know that when you see it on the news, and the Republican Party won't stand for it. And we're obligated to fight it and fight back. So you'll see new leadership coming up. And with that in mind, just today, we heard from our own Congressman Chip Roy. He's a stalwart conservative and the hardest working congressman in that chamber, I swear. He has put his hat in the ring to lead the Republican conference. So stay tuned for that. Watch the news, and we certainly wish him well. And we know that if he were to be elected by his peers to that position, that the Republican Party would be the hardest fighting outfit, and it would be conservative, true to our values. So best of luck to our own Congressman Roy. He represents us well, and he would represent the GOP and America just as well. So let me pause there and just take a glance here and see what else we got. I mentioned the email address, and it's in the comments now for you to see. Okay, let's see here. What else we got? So let me go back and just recap for those of you who joined us a little bit late. I don't even know if I mentioned it too. For my new cap that I'm sporting, that I received there's a group called the Texas Republican County Chairs Association, TRCCA for short. I went to the best training I've ever attended in Texas on politics, anywhere in politics. And I happened to get this hat while I was down there. So we are ordering some, and our theme then is Bring America Back. And we think Americans resonate with this. They see what's going on in Washington. That is not the America that the bulk of our citizens have in mind. So we will get some of these and have them at our event. So check those out. Also, we will have one more State of the Party online, and that will be some Thursday, about the third week in June. And then we're aiming to have an in-person State of the Party so we can all interact together again, and that'll be a rip-roaring good time, and we'll do that in July. A reminder, on May 20th, that is 1 week from tonight, our Kendall County Republican Club is hosting an event at the Bevy Hotel here in Boerne, and the emphasis and the honored guests are youth being under age 22 or under. So congrats to our leadership in the KCRC, as it's called, Denise Lindeman and her team, and doing a great job. And this will be a great event. So you won't want to miss that this is going to be good. And I will just say, across our county, the Republican voters I run into, people are revved up. They are really hyped up to prevent this nonsense in Washington that is being proposed now. We just won't stand for it. So morale is high. Let's go get them and make it happen. I also mentioned we always can use more volunteers. So whether it be for election workers at the polling place, or it be answering voter questions or inquiries, we need that. There's a certain amount of administrative work that we need help with, and so it goes. And we, party leadership. We're looking for the next party leaders to come along. Some of us are senior citizens. I qualify for that now myself. And next generation, we need to bring the younger people into the party and make it happen as we transition into the year 2021 and beyond. And as I just mentioned, our own Congressman Chip Roy is running for conference chair among the Republicans in Washington. If you watch the news, you'll see there's a congressman from upstate New York Elise Stefanik, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is she had notoriety. Elise did 4 years ago, I believe. She was the youngest congressman ever elected at age 30. So it was very distinctive at the time. She's young, has a lot of energy, and she did a great job of defending President Trump during the impeachment hearings. So she's got a lot going for her. And so our Republican congressman will have some choices, and that's always a good thing. So with that, let me glance up for a second and see if we have other questions, or let me check it here and see. Stand by for a second. I'm going to look at my. Okay. Yeah, a long text message. I'll have to read that later. Okay, it looks like we're going to kind of wrap it up then. So thanks for those of y'all who joined me, and this is recorded, so it'll be up on our YouTube channel for later viewing. And the intent is for us to have for the party leadership, myself here in this case, to be able to communicate right with you directly. We don't have filters by media or whatever. And so hopefully that is of benefit to y'all. And also we can share, announcements and so forth. So let's just wrap it up here. And again, appreciate all of you helping me out. And thanks for the monitors. We have 2 monitors there to kind of keep me going for questions and comments and technical support. So I appreciate them too very much. And so with that, I wish you all a very, very pleasant evening. God bless you all you great Republicans out there in Kendall County. God bless America, and God bless the greatest state of them all, our dear state of Texas. Good night.